dancing.
It's difficult. So we yeah, and if they've got like a sounds best. Helping yourselves. Thank you so much to our lovely hostess. To our lovely hostess, Mark. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, not really.
Just your,
I did used to.
yeah.
I used to do a lot of filming.
What are you doing now? Just working for a firm?
I'm freelancing. Yeah. Freelancing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Doing what? You have to move out of there a little bit more.
yeah.
And you got to travel into the...
At the moment I work from home, but like I normally try and work very quickly. So I've only been out of full-time work for like a week, but I'm working part-time. So I need to find.
But there is a lot of new stuff going on up on you know Palmore Road.
Yeah.
You know that area where the back of it's sort of up from Bennett Hill and that.
Yeah.
That seems to be having a lot of stuff.
So
I'm gonna let you carry on.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I'm still listening.
Well, I was
Sorry, Pat.
alright. No. I mean, it's just sort of saying, you know.
No, it's nice to see you.
I mean, it's not your age.
Yeah, I'm 34, yeah. Believe it or not. I can't believe it.
No.
I can't believe I'm 34.
I'm going out to Wanstead tomorrow.
Are you going to Wanstead?
I've got a cousin who lives in Wanstead.
Wanstead's lovely. Yeah, Wanstead's really nice. That's where everyone sort of aspires to live. In
Hello, friends.
yes.
It would be really nice. I thought you were going to say that. But she's actually moved in now to elderly accommodation, which is the best thing for her. She's over 80. But you know what? There's a lot of it along there where you come out of Wanstead.
For Barbara, if you would gather, somebody's going to do in the middle, maybe Ruth will in the middle with Barbara to give her. Here we are. Would you like to gather round? Here we go. Can you come round? Okay. So Ruth, will you who else is there here? Gail. Your hands free? No. Adam, your hands are free. You know, to get a bit of action going. Here we are. And who likes to sing? Sing on top of the muscles. Ready? We'll get them all the words.
do it again. Okay.
So I'm going to continue the story. Okay. Also back to 1988. The event was called Ruach, and it was billed as the gathering of the Alternative Jewish Network. It took place in May of that year at a place called the Beechwood Conference Center, which doesn't exist and hasn't existed for many years. But yes, we were all there. I can't remember if I knew you before that, Barbara. I think that was also the same for me. Yeah. I knew Gail already because everyone knows Gail, and Gail knows everybody, but I didn't know you yet, and Gail didn't know you yet. But we all met in the context of that amazing place, and we remember it well. I think we should eventually do something to celebrate it. I thought of that. I work here as a rabbi in this synagogue. That's interesting, and Barbara is now a member here, a congregant. So, they say in Latin, I can't remember. It's not o tempore o mores, it's something like that. Anyway, and it was 25 years, so it's a couple of years ago now. I guess it must have been 2013. And I met some people who came to an event here, and they had also been at Ruach in 1988. And we said, we really should do something. May 2013 is coming up. Well, anyway, now it's 30 years, indeed, 30 years. And unfortunately, we didn't organize anything. But in a way, the fact that we're together and we're in this place, and Gail is where she is doing all of the same illustrious things as ever. I'm working here as a rabbi. I wasn't a rabbi in 1988, and I wasn't working as one or working as anything, really. And Barbara is here living nearby. Because the next part of my story, and that's the rest of it really, has to do with that fabled place, Birmingham. And I think we need to give some fond attention to the city of Birmingham now. So, we were all at Leeds. Gail and I and some others lived here, right here in North London. But Barbara lived in Birmingham with her 3 children. Now, we had an adventure shortly afterwards in neither Birmingham nor London, but on the coast of Dorset. We called it 17 Go Mad in Dorset. And it was our alternative Christmas when we rented a farmhouse that had been a school, or something like that, a school that had been a farmhouse near Bridport. And we have many, many memories. Jake, who is here, has forgotten them all, but apparently his sister remembers very well when he fell into the sea and various other exciting things happened in December 1988. But then we returned to our various homes, but it so happened that many of us, yes, trekked up to Birmingham very regularly and got to know Birmingham, I think, very well, mainly through Barbara. Now, I had an aunt who lived in Arthur Road in Edgbaston, and in due course, Barbara moved to Odell Place, very nearby. So then I had a very special connection because I could stay with Barbara at Odell Place and walk over and see my aunt who has died in the meantime. So I no longer have those connections with Birmingham. And we were talking about it, some of us. Others of your friends from Birmingham have moved here and are present here and live here in North London. But I have a great sense of fondness when I think of Birmingham, and I think of Edgbaston, I think of your different houses, I think of my late aunt, Zichrona Livracha, was a very difficult person. Nevertheless, her memory is blessed. And Birmingham has now sort of moved out of my life. And it's lovely, though, that Barbara is now my sort of neighbor. We have twice run into each other on the street in the middle of Wood Green, which is a really lovely thing. Not because of Wood Green, I hasten to add. Wood Green is nothing special. If you don't know it, don't hasten down there to say, I want to see what the rabbi said was so lovely about this area. No, but it's very lovely. in London, we have various, as you know, smaller centres, village centres, town centres. One, I guess, is Wood Green. And to get off the tube or get out of the bus, and then to run into somebody, your friend that you know. And that has happened with me and Barbara more than once at Wood Green. And of course, I see her here in this synagogue. Indeed, I see her here when I sit with my fellow rabbi, Shulamit Ambalu, and we sit at a big table here at a council meeting, because Barbara is also a member now of the synagogue council. So that means she is now my employer. So,
You've got to be nice.
there you are. In the olden days, there we were at Ruach in Leeds, in the non-existent Beechwood Conference Center, and the world was very different in 1988, wasn't it? The world was very different. And here we are today, and many that we've known, sadly, are not here. They're no longer in this world with us. We have to remember them too. But we're here, and our lives have gone through all kinds of stages. New people have entered those lives and entered those families. Barbara is grandmother now, several times over. Where's Leon? Leon is father of 3 now. The most recent was born very recently. So many happy changes too. And I think it's a moment now to say the Shehechianu, which is our blessing for special occasions and new occasions as well. And it celebrates the idea of God as the creator. Okay, but it has 3 words in it, if you don't know, but I'm sure most of you do now. So the first word is Shehechianu, and that means who's kept us alive, who's maintained us in life. We're just acknowledging the wonderfulness of this moment. So Shehechianu kept us alive. The next one was Kimanu, who's kept us upright, basically. Helped us to be sustained to this moment. And the final one is Higianu, which means who has caused us to arrive at this moment in time. So that's all that we're saying. But it's a very special moment in time. We say Mazel Tov and happy birthday, and Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lezman hazeh. Amen.
I'd like to say a few words. Sort of turn it upside down a bit, really, because I see Barbara as my kind of feisty Jewish New Yorker friend. I'm her non-Jew friend, so it's a bit different. And I met Barbara, I think it was 1991, when I first came up to Birmingham. And it was at her, I think it was a birthday, and it was in a little restaurant at Selly Oak. And obviously we became friends, and I was working and living in Birmingham for quite a few years. And we sort of did things like Saturday mooches around stores and Rackhams to buy a navy blue jacket with polka dot lining. And Barbara's an amazing person, really, because she kind of comes on as tough, but actually she's a real softie. But she's got some determination. Yeah. And, you know, she's dedicated mum, professional lady, a go-getter, and she's my friend. And I think that's probably all I want to say.
So I'm one of the Birmingham contingent. We moved to Birmingham in 1979, right at the tail end, and I was pregnant. I had my baby in the January, and I didn't know a soul. And I walked, I don't know, I'm getting so upset, sorry about that. So I used to walk up to the shops and back, and one day this woman opened the door. She said, do you want to come to a coffee morning? And I thought, she can't be English. I mean, how many English people would open the door and just invite somebody in? And that was the NCT, and it was the saving of me, because it introduced me to all sorts of things. And it just shows, I think, the sort of person that Barbara is. She's not afraid to do anything, and she's got a heart of gold.
Sorry, I've got the piece of paper here. I think Bernadette said a lot that I feel as well. And I've known Barbara for the late 80s. I was at Robert's party. Since then we've done a lot of things together, but we were both the same age and single parents, and Barbara had, of course, had a lot more juggling than me with the little ones, you know, and they were her life at that time. But what stands out about Barbara is her kindness, generosity, and that smile. Positiveness and optimism, you know, keeps her going. I miss her calling into my house when she went shopping in Sainsbury's. We had our little chats, and Barbara was a great confidant. I mean, she still is, of course. She's honest and caring. Gosh, this is beginning to sound like a CV, not meant to be. I felt sad about Barbara moving to London, but knew that this was what she wanted to do for a long time. And of course, I'm happy for her that she's achieved this. And I think she's done an awful lot in her 70 years, so there's a book there to be written sometime when you have time, Barbara. And Barbara and I both worked at Birmingham Settlement in the 1990s. And when Barbara went to work at Symphony Hall, we went to a great many great concerts together. Still remember them. I mean, that was something that she made sure, you know, shared with me. It is thanks to her that I managed this, you know, going to these concerts. And we shared her a 45th birthday celebration. And we also spent many New Year's Eves together. In April 2002, we flew to New York and back again together. Barbara went to visit relatives, and I went to visit my aunt. And I must say it was great that having Barbara to go back and forth with. But we spent a bit more time together. We did visit Ellis Island and Ground Zero, and also paid a visit to our friend Jessie. And Barbara even met Aunt Bridie, so that's another story. You remember the whole collab palaver. A few years later, we went to Paris together for a few days. And in spite of Barbara recovering from her leg operation, we managed to get round quite a bit. So there's great memories there. We must not forget Bernadette. Barbara, Bernadette and I shared quite a lot of times together. There's one thing I didn't mention about the Barbara, you know, when you're out with her there. She had a great sense of humour and an infectious laugh. And it's great to be sharing, you know, your 70th birthday celebrations. And thank you for your friendship, Barbara. And it has been nice to meet some more of your friends together.
I've only known Barbara for a short time. My first memories are of her pushing a pram built for two into the synagogue. I don't want to compete with everything that's said about her, but I would like us to celebrate Barbara's thirst for knowledge and her willingness to share with others the knowledge that she's acquired in her career in all sorts of fields. In fundraising, which is quite important in Jewish circles, but also in Jewish learning. And we're in the happy position, Loretta and I, of being able to share journeys to and from Limud in Birmingham, from North London. And Barbara makes a big sacrifice of getting herself into a taxi to be at our place at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday to set off to Birmingham. I know this is a big sacrifice. So thank you, Barbara, for everything that you've done for us in imparting your knowledge and sharing it with us.
One thing I take with me, I remember from many meals at Barbara's house for Shabbos, she was always determined, never skipped talking about 3 positive things that happened with us in our week that gone. And such small things that in many ways sort of symbol Barbara's her pursuit for finding positive, pursuit to never give up, and a pursuit to keep going and do what's necessary despite everything. That's
I met Barbara and David in 1979 queuing for vegetarian food at the Birmingham settlement. Is that right?
Sure.
When it was in Tower Street, I think. And we were the only 4 people queuing for vegetarian food. So we got chatting. And Barbara came from New York, so she was much more friendly than lots of other people, you know, that you might meet. And she told me that she was working in a boys' comprehensive school in Birmingham, Turves Green. And then she told me, and this was extraordinary, she told me that she told the students that she was Jewish. This was completely unheard of in my upbringing. You never told anybody you were Jewish until they kind of found out. It was sort of, it came out in conversation, but it was never the thing you said first. You knew, they probably knew, but you absolutely didn't say anything. I remember you telling me that when the kids made Jewish insults, you made Brummie insults back, and then you all got on really well. And I thought this was quite extraordinary. And then I think after you had Leon, contacted me after Leon was born, and we stayed in touch ever since then. Barbara and Rebecca very kindly came to an Edinburgh show of mine when you were the only 2 members of the audience. So they were the members of the audience, and I performed for them, and everybody's been incredibly supportive since then. And your potato salads and coleslaw are very much missed. Thank you.
I want to say something really, really nice about Barbara because she's so important to me. I am not a very sort of easy person, and I thought, well, next year, when I'm 70, will I gather a group of people like that around me? No way. I have none. No friends like that. Why? I am sort of like a person who likes to keep myself to myself. I don't know, it's not good. So Barbara definitely has a good quality in that sense. I met Barbara in that proverbial Birmingham, like many people here. I just came from Africa, and I was determined. I gave myself a promise. I'm going to join the synagogue. Because before, I have never been a member of the synagogue, although I'm Jewish. I grew up in Russia, and at the time, during the socialist era, nobody went to synagogue. And I had a neighbor, a Jewish lady, who was my German language teacher. She once secretly, under the swear that I will never tell anybody, showed me Torah, a copy of Torah. So that was out. So when I came from Africa in 1995, I decided I'm going to join. So I looked in the yellow pages, and I found a progressive synagogue on Shipcote Street, and off I went there, and I came on Saturday and started coming every Saturday. Then I became a member. So at that time, there was quite a strong Eastern European constituency there of people who either came out from Eastern Europe or whose parents came or grandparents came. So there were people who even used to speak a little bit of Russian or who were refugees at some point. And as you know, Barbara is East European. Although she lives in London, and she was brought up in New York, and she went to Jewish school there, but she's Russian Polish Jew. Like and that's what attracted me, and I wanted to know more. And she invited me to her place, and we spent a lot of Shabbats together, and then we went here and there, and sometimes, and I moved to London as well now, and sometimes Barbara phones me and says, "Where are you? On which continent are you?" Because I travel a lot. And let's meet, and we meet again. So there was this terrible tragedy of her birth, which she overcame. And she made a success of her life. Her parents were victims of the Holocaust, but Barbara grew out of it and made a complete success of her life. And
I'm Robert, and from what has been said so far, it sounds as if Birmingham has quite a lot to answer for. I lived there. I was born in London, but I lived there for a long time, and I met Barbara in 1986, I think it was, when we were introduced by a mutual friend called Anne, and we very soon became good friends, and we realised that we were neighbours, although in fact the street I lived in was at right angles to the street Barbara lived in, and I was right up at the top of it. And she was down the posh end next to the park, and I was up by the shops. And I've always associated Barbara with class ever since. At that time, I was living on my own for quite a while. Barbara was bringing up 3 children, quite young at the time, on her own. I often used to pop round. I was more than happy to do practical things, replacing fuses, light bulbs, things like that, or trying to mend things. And this became, I think, quite a pattern. And on one occasion, I went round for a cup of coffee and a chat. And Jake opened the door, saw me standing there and shouted, "What's broken this time?" I was introduced by a friend, we became very good friends. And I've been sort of thinking in preparation for this, really what I value about Barbara. And there were 2 things which really stood out. Firstly, her loyalty. She's been a very, very good friend and a very supportive friend. And it was I felt honoured to be invited, and I went to the bar mitzvah and bad mitzvah of her children, and to Leon's wedding 10 years ago, I think it was. I forget the date, but I hope you don't, Leon. And she came to my wedding when I married Angela 24 years ago. So loyalty certainly is very, very important. The other thing, which I don't think anybody's going to contradict me, is when I say that Barbara says things as they are. And that is refreshing, to be honest. So, many happy returns, Barbara. Mazel tov, whatever you...
Okay, I don't know where the spot is. Okay, so I'm a recent friend, a very recent friend, I think, compared to most of you. So I think I've known Barbara for about 8 years. It's about 8 years now. And I attended a workshop, a fundraising workshop, that Barbara was running. And I was a bit scared, not going to lie. This formidable woman who was sort of wagging her finger at us and sort of telling us to sort of pull our socks up. But she really seemed to know what she was talking about. And I was really drawn to her because I really wanted to learn about fundraising, because I subsequently went on to found a charity. And Barbara, in the end, became a very good friend and has now become a trustee of said charity. And I just wanted to sort of acknowledge that she's a feisty, strong, sassy broad, with and she's cool, and she's honest and very direct and to the point. But we've come to the sort of, I've now know her well enough to be able to say, to give back, and I think we have a good relationship and we get things really done together. I'm deeply in awe of the fact that she's done many amazing things in raising money for Birmingham Children's Hospital and the London Symphony, Birmingham City, but the Symphony Hall, and which I think is to be applauded and amazing. And she's a teacher, and she's really taught me a lot about the world of fundraising and about charity world, and I'm deeply grateful for that. And I also wanted to say that looking around, because there's many of you I haven't met before, it's a bit like a successful mini United Nations in this room, and I think it's really cool, and maybe some of our politicians should learn from this, because it's really good to see the diversity of your friendship base, and it's really impressive, and it's lovely, and it's lovely to meet you all, those of you who I've spoken to. I just think that Irina, I loved what you said, because my charity works with isolated Jewish communities in the former Soviet Union, and I just think when we get under the surface of who we really are, you came from Russia and you're here now, and you actually saw through it to where she originally came from, Barbara originally came from, but yet you were this New Yorker on the surface, and yet you are very, you mean a lot to each other, and I think that's says an awful lot about what we should do as humans, and we should all look a little bit under the surface, and I think you've done a great job at doing that, so mazel tov.
Last time I gave a speech was about 10 years ago, almost the day of John's wedding, and I was shaking like a leaf. I'm going a bit techno with the phone, some notes on my phone. So to get kicked off, where did I meet Barbara? So where does one start? I guess I've probably got too much to say for a 5-minute speech. I'll try and sort of boil it down into certain things and themes that I think are probably most relevant, that I probably wouldn't say to my mum directly, and that I think are quite nice things. So I guess thinking about being an adult now as opposed to a little kid running around and causing all sorts of havoc, what do I think about now compared to when I was younger, and how has my mum impacted me? I would say at the time when I was much younger, I didn't really understand why on a Friday night we couldn't watch TV, and why I couldn't be doing things with friends, etc. And why it was this special thing that we would come together and have a Friday night meal. And I think I've come to realise that across the board of the Jewish diaspora, not everybody does that. Not everybody does Shabbat. And I think it's instilled in me a strong sense of identity, and a strong sense of when to turn off, which Mum will probably know better than most. I find it quite difficult to do. Where have I always seen you before? I would say I have memories. I was just chatting to someone about it recently. I have memories growing up where I'd be hearing a noise from downstairs, and I'd come running down the stairs, and it'd be one of Mum's parties. I've seen some people of you guys at one of her parties, and I remember all sorts of parties. I think you did a big one for your 40th, 50th, and here we are for another one, 70th. And I think that's probably affected me as well in terms of a love for bringing people together and throwing my own sorts of birthday parties as well. What else can I say? Mum having such big challenges in her life, it's been touched upon in previous discussions and speeches rather, and yeah, I think it's a very poignant thing. It's a very important thing that she's been able to overcome so many difficulties. Every now and again, I speak to my mum every couple of weeks, and I try to get little gleams and glimpses of childhood and things that have happened to her in her life. And I don't know if anyone knows this, because I only found out this recently, but Mum was a great influence on her parents, as she taught them English. They didn't know English, and Mum actually taught them English, which I thought was quite interesting. So that's one thing, and then linking that to me, she must have had quite a big challenge with dealing with me. I don't know how many remember what I was like growing up. I don't. Thankfully, it's a grace on me that I don't remember. But I can imagine that I probably wasn't the easiest of 6, 7, 8, 9. Pick the number year olds.
Oh, there you go.
So I can say that thank you for that, because I'm sure that would have been quite a difficult thing. Joking aside, I'm proud also in the last couple of years to make such a, maybe some people don't see it as a big thing, but I do see it as a big thing in your late 60s to move to a big city where you know a few people, but it's still a big move, moving away from a city where she'd been for the best part of her life, and to make a move to a new city, to an area which she didn't really know, around Palmer's Green. I don't think she'd spent much time there, so I think I'm very, very much proud of that. And I think it's a good example and inspiration to me that no matter how old I become, I can think, well, my mum did this at this age. So, and if you think about it, I mean, how many parents do I know who struggle with one child or 2 children? So that's something to mention as well. So I guess to sum it all up, I can say that what a great mother for a start, and what an important inspiration. And I can't even really articulate how amazing she is. But I'm so glad she decided to do a 70th birthday pie. I think it's an amazing thing. Don't stop having pies. Definitely keep them going. And I just wanted to just say thank you and just keep going. Yeah.
We've heard from people who've known Barbara for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but I think I can claim the record, in this group anyway, of having known Barbara since 1971. We met on the kibbutz in Israel, and I was doing the menial jobs. I was looking after the turkeys, or if I was very, very good, I was allowed to pick oranges. Barbara was looking after the children. She was doing an important job because she had the right skills, she could speak the language, and she had a special place in the community, even then, at that time, because of what she was doing. On the kibbutz, we used to get 2 days holiday, which we could accumulate every month. And we had the idea that we would go to one of the digs, the archaeological digs in Gedi, and spend a couple of days there. I had no idea how much effort it was digging in the sand in whatever it was, 80, 90 degrees heat. And at the end of the first day of doing this, digging and shoveling all this sand into barrows and barrowing it off and dumping it somewhere else, I was completely exhausted, and we'd signed up for a whole week of this. Fortunately, by the end of the day, Barbara had developed a really bad eye infection. So we had to leave at that point, and I've never been so grateful to anyone for that. There are 2 other things which I want to thank Barbara for. The first is for having faith in me when nobody else did really, that I was capable of finishing a university degree and supporting me through that. And the second, of course, is 3 wonderful children. So, Barbara, thank you very much. Happy 70th birthday.
I'll keep it short. I've not prepared anything whatsoever. I'm Leon. I'm Barbara's. I think I've probably know about 2/3 of the people in the room, perhaps maybe a bit more than that. What to say? I mean, I'm not going to repeat anything anyone's already said, I hope. I think probably the one word I'd use to characterise my mum is probably strength. In terms of emotional strength, physical strength, determination. I think she taught me, the value of perseverance, the value of, doing a job well done. Her outlook on life, her sense of self, kindness, effect on other people, which is considerable, and her achievements, you know, speak for themselves. Thank you for everything. Happy birthday, I love you, and that's it.
Oh, that's good.
Right, everybody sing happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Barbara. Happy birthday to you.
He's a jolly good fellow, and so say all of us, and so say all of us, and so say all of us. He's a jolly good fellow, but she's a jolly good fellow, but she's a jolly good fellow, and so say all of us. Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray!
Am I next? Were you saying that you would like people to go and get a glass? Is that what you're
Yes,
saying? Would you
let's,
like-
anybody who wants
Here we
to,
are.
anybody who would like to, hello? Does it work? Okay. Anybody who would like
Yeah.
a drink to raise a glass in honour of Barbara as she cuts her cake.
Yeah.
Please go and get a glass of wine.
A sort of African startup. It's an interesting one. They're a magazine. They're a magazine, Pan-African magazine.
Wow,
Yeah, no,
that's a bit different.
Yeah, it is. I got it for a friend.
So these are all short-term things, but
Yeah. Barbie was just 3 months. Actually, just under 2.5 months. As in headphones, talking and stuff. No, you don't want to hear the conversations.
So the Barbara's going to go over to the corner and she's going to cut her cake, whereupon you will be able to have some cake. So if we could take you over to the corner and then we can raise a toast and go Barbara as she cuts. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see it's the battery. Well, you can see when you switch it on, it goes, the light goes on.
He's on the mic. I don't see a mic.
Someone's using a mic. Oh, no, he's brought another one. There's no power in it.
I think it's the battery.
Second.
That's right. Oh, it sounds like they've got another mic. How's it going? Yeah, I'll try and get.
Go on for reply. Sum it up.
Well, I've never felt tongue-tied before.
You have to go on slow.
Well, a lot of people have said to me they've applauded my achievement at reaching 70, as if I had anything to do with it. So I think that's the gist of it, that I'm blessed to have reached this age because I nearly didn't make it at the beginning. And I'm thankful to have reached this age. And I'm also thankful for all the support I've had along the way and all my friends, my wonderful friends. I've always been blessed with friends. And, you know, you all coming here is testament to that. So thank you very much for coming and for having been with me on my journey along the way.